All right, everyone. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the head and shoulders pattern and its inverse, the inverted head and shoulders pattern. So specifically what you are looking for, and this one is a bit harder to spot, is a high, a higher high, and then a lower high. Now that does sound a bit confusing, but when I go ahead and draw this out, it might make it a little bit more obvious. First, let me go ahead and draw up the neckline, which is the level that all of these points go to after creating their highs. And now you might be a little bit more clear. Right here, notice we have a high, and then it comes down to the neckline, we create a higher high, comes back down to the neckline, creates a lower high, and then comes back down to the neckline. This would, of course, be your left shoulder. This would be your head, and this would be your right shoulder. Notice it kind of creates that head and shoulders like formation. Now, the head and shoulders formation is going to be a reversal pattern to the downside. And it's very simple to go ahead and play this. Basically, what you're going to want to go ahead and do is mark out with a horizontal ray just the last point of touch that occurred along the level of trend support that acts as the neckline. If it's going to be a flat level, and if it's a horizontal level, basically, you're just going to use that horizontal level as your confirmation entry. But what you're looking for is for a candlestick close beneath this level. When you get a candlestick close beneath this level, go ahead and enter a short position or an entry to the downside. And where you're going to set your stop loss is above the right shoulder. So if it goes ahead and moves back above this right shoulder, then you would stop out of the position right then and there. But where you're taking your entry point is at with the candlestick close beneath the most recent touch along the trend level of support, also known as the neckline. And your price target is actually a very simple one. Since this one does tend to see a full reversal to the downside, typically you're just looking at the move that led into the head and shoulders pattern, and you're taking the low of that move. You could, of course, use another price target like this level right here, but we're looking for that full reversal, so we would use this low down here. And notice that did actually end up hitting before it bounced off and then eventually broke through that level. But just to recap, and I could draw these lines for you guys again, we have our entry point with a close below, with the candlestick close but below the most recent low that was touching the neckline. Set the stop loss at the high of the right shoulder, and then your take profit is at the low point of the move that led into the head and shoulders pattern. Like I said, this does come in a lot of shapes and different sizes, but if I go ahead and draw out a trend line right here, it might make it a little bit more clear. If we look right here, we have a left shoulder, which creates a high, a higher high, which is the head, and then we have the right shoulder, which would, of course, create that lower high. Now, where we're going to go ahead and set that entry point at is take your horizontal ray tool. We're going to use the most recent touch along the neckline. And if we get a candlestick close beneath this level, we're going to go ahead and enter a short position with a stop loss at the high of the right shoulder, which is at this level right here. Now, remember, you are going to be taking profit at the low of the move that led into the head and shoulders pattern. So if I go ahead and mark that out here, this would be your take profit level, which actually did end up breaking through and creating lower lows. But this is pretty much the head and shoulders pattern. Once again, to recap, you're looking for a high, a higher high, and then a lower high, all while touching the same level of trend support. And basically, you're going to look for a candlestick close beneath the most recent touch along that trend support. Once you get a close beneath that level, go ahead and take a short position with a stop loss at the high of the right shoulder, and your take profit is going to be at the low point of the move that occurred into the head and shoulders pattern. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the inverse of this, which is the inverted head and shoulders. If I go ahead and draw a trend line right here, it might become a little bit more clear. We have a left shoulder right here, then a head, which creates a lower low, and then a higher low, which is created by the right shoulder. Now, of course, we're going to use the same tactic for entry, which is just going to be a candle. We're looking for a candlestick close above the most recent touch along the trend level or the neckline. We get a candlestick close over here. Go ahead and take a long position there and set your stop loss at the low of the right shoulder. So I'd go ahead and mark a low point right there. This would be the stop loss level. And where you're looking to take profit at is at the move at the high of the move that led into the right shoulder, which you could see was actually eventually hit all the way over here. But once again, to recap, guys, you're looking for a low, a lower low, and then a higher low that all touch along the same trend line, also known as the neckline. Once you get that candlestick close above the most recent touch along that trend line, then you can go ahead and take an entry to the upside, set your stop loss at the right shoulder low, and then take profit at the high of the move that led into the head and shoulders pattern. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at another move that created an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Notice if I go ahead and just draw a quick little trend line right here, you'll notice that this trend line is actually upsloping. So instead of just using the most recent touch along the trend line as an entry point, rather what you want to do here is you want to see a green candlestick close entirely above the upsloping trend line. If you can go ahead and see that, then you take the entry to the upside. But notice we still have that left shoulder that creates the low. We have the head that creates the lower low. And then we have the right shoulder that creates the higher low. And all this is done along a trend level, also known as the neckline, where all the highs have been touching. So go ahead and take an entry with this candlestick close above the uptrending resistance. Set a stop loss with a move below the low of the right shoulder. And then your take profit is just at the high of the move that occurred leading into the head and shoulders inverted pattern. So if we look over here, that level was actually hit right here. The stop loss was not hit, and you would have been able to collect on this difference in between. But anyway, guys, that'll pretty much do it for this video on head and shoulders patterns and inverted head and shoulders patterns. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.